I'm privileged to get to interview you because you had a personal relationship with Sydney Banks, and so I want to speak about that a lot. But before we get there, because you kind of hinted about this, I think what a lot of us do, like for example, when I got introduced to the idea of the three principles, maybe I had no concept about it, I hadn't thought about it. I was kind of open, I was receptive, and it just immediately landed. I had this beautiful feeling, as you mentioned. And then obviously, like our perception of the three principles is not a static thing. So we conceptualize it, we intellectualize it, and instead of staying present and open to new in-moment insights that come with this beautiful feeling that you're describing, we keep on referring to the content of the previous insights and kind of block ourselves from wisdom. So for people that may have got kind of stuck in their intellectual understanding and conceptualization, what would you advise? How would you point them out of it?
Well, I think there's three things that people have to realize. One is that they're trying to figure out how to be happy. And whenever we get thinking, we all think too much, all of us do, yeah. We get thinking and we lose the feeling. And we make the insight be about whatever we think it was, rather than about just seeing something from a deeper feeling. So why Sid says it's all about the feeling, it's in the feeling. So you have to learn to listen for a deeper feeling as it comes through you. And then that provides you with the insight, and then your mind quiets down. But when you're trying to figure it out so that you can apply it to your life and get a good feeling, it doesn't work. So if you're not getting a good feeling, that's all that's happening. You're just trying to figure out, because now you have some new thoughts, right? You have mind, thought, and consciousness. And if I understand how they work, and if I could just do this, then I'd feel better. No, forget what you know, because that's not it. If it's not giving you a beautiful feeling, a sense of peacefulness, it's not awakening to you, it's not alive to you, that's not it. Go back to the drawing board and start listening with nothing on your mind. Because when you listen for that feeling, it will come through you and it will give you whatever you need to see. But it's very simple, super simple, and it has to come to you. You have to see it for yourself. You cannot figure it out by listening to somebody else and then memorizing what they say and then applying it. That's the model the world lives in, is what I call the information application mode. Tell me how it works so I can apply it and then I'll be happy. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to see that you are what you're looking for. You are it already. It's like one of my girlfriends said that she was looking for her phone in her car. She's looking all over and couldn't find it. And then she realized she was using her flashlight on her phone to find it.
Oh God. Oh, isn't that a beautiful metaphor?
Yeah.
And yet we keep on looking for it. And here's something else. I've heard words such as gaslighting. So when we have a lot of agitated thinking and the world looks like a really messy place to be in, I think it can almost, from that perspective, it can almost feel kind of irresponsible to take your hands off of your thoughts, because then you feel like a personal responsibility to figure it out so that it goes away. I mean, obviously you don't have an appreciation that it will go away automatically once you do that. But how could people transcend that sense of taking it so personally and feeling like it's their job to think themselves out of their problems, kind of?
Mm-hmm. Well, what people are doing is they're creating a problem with their thinking. Then they're trying to solve it with the same thinking. That's what Albert Einstein said was the definition of insanity, is trying to change things by doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to get new thought. You have to see things from a different level. He also said The problems of the world will never be solved at the level that they're created. So everyone lives at a different level of consciousness. Okay, and the level of consciousness that you live at is what's creating literally what your reality. You're creating it from that level. So when you try to figure it out from that level, you just get more into that level. That's what traditional psychology does, is people come in and they come in a given state of mind, given level of consciousness, right? And then they talk about how life looks to them. They talk about their problems. They talk about their interactions. They talk about their feelings. They talk about their behaviors. And the therapist then tries to change them at that same level of consciousness. What we're saying is that if you change your level of consciousness, then what you create is totally different. So you don't have to fix it. The answer is you go back inside and quiet down, and your level rises, and then you see answers. You see opportunities. You see what to do in your life instead of what's wrong with your life. So the intellect is designed to solve and create problems. It's a very, very amazing ability that we have. We've just gotten overly fascinated with it because we haven't understood that there's an even deeper intelligence that we're connected to. And that deeper intelligence is within everybody. And most people, when you talk to them, they'll be able to tell you things like, I knew I shouldn't have said that. I knew I should have done this. There's a kind of a knowing that comes with your wisdom. When you're in your head spinning, you can't get your feet down. You're just spinning, trying to find it, and there's no grounding there, right? If you ground yourself, you come back in the moment and you quiet your thoughts, what will happen is things will come to you about what you can do in your life that will make things better. So it's not saying, well, just don't think about your problem, because, if I work with men that beat up their wives, and I don't tell them, just don't think about your wife anymore. I have to help them to see that their experience is coming from their own thinking. So each one of us has to see that. We have to see that our responsibility comes when we see that it's all our thought. I mean, it's the good news and the bad news, right? Because the good news is it's your thought, you're the thinker, you can do something about it. The bad news is it's your thought, you're the thinker, you have to do something about it if you want it to change. You can't blame anyone.
It's so almost like hilarious how our attempts to solve certain problems. You're right. It's so good that you highlighted that we're speaking about the level of our perception of problems. I mean, nobody's suggesting to ignore an external actual problem that is hurting, but and on my own example, like what the three principles helped me realize is that all these things I had made up in my mind, I was keeping it active by trying to solve it at the same time. And I was using the same material to solve it. It's like trying to extinguish fire with fire. And I just couldn't see it because intellectually I would make up all these reasons. And in my mind, they seemed valid. So and then nobody would give me feedback that they weren't.
Right. Right. And, part of it is the nature of consciousness, because consciousness takes whatever you think and makes it seem real. So the problem looks like it's really a problem, right? Like, I'm not saying that there aren't things you need to change in your life or anybody needs to change in their life, but seeing it as a quote problem means there's something to be afraid of. There's like something could go wrong. It's that kind of insecurity that we get about that kind of thinking. Right. And sometimes that's okay to even have that, like, whoa, something's wrong. I better take a look at that. But then you go back out of that thinking and you start listening and reflecting, and then you'll start to see what to do about it. just makes you a lot smarter. And, you know, like the very first book that was ever written on this was called Sanity, Insanity, and Common Sense. And really what we're talking about is using common sense in life. Overthinking things is what makes things go haywire. Because we talk ourselves out of things. We talk ourselves into things. We don't listen.
It's so interesting, isn't it? This power of thoughts. I mean, whenever we think a thought, we immediately not only just feel it, but also our minds seem to have this instant capacity to create a story around it. So we're almost meant to be in that trap. But to me, that actually points to our own power. I mean, we're so powerful that we forget that we have this power. It's kind of ridiculous.
Really, it is. It's amazing. That's why, you know, I've been teaching this now for 40 years, and I'm still like learning heaps and gobs. I see new, like every time. That's one of the reasons we do that podcast, is because it's really fascinating for us. We learn things every week. We thought maybe we'd have 20 or 30 episodes, and we're like over 100 now. And we just keep coming up with new things like, oh yeah, what about this? This is different too. So it's a whole different way of looking at life. It's not, see, like when people kind of apply this to problem solving, they're short-sighted a little bit, because it's looking at the whole thing, like how does reality get created in each one of us? And the magic of that spiritual energy as it comes through us to make a mess or to make it beautiful. And if you know how it works, then you can make it beautiful. You don't have to wait for somebody else to do it, or for your life to change, or for things to happen to you. You can see, like, all I have to do to clean my life up is get rid of negativity. All I need to do is let go of insecure thoughts. And then you see things differently, and suddenly things change. Like, there was a guy, I don't know, I think he was in the Oakland project, the community project, and that Roger did as well. Roger was the master of community projects. I got to tell you, he was I'm talking to Shane Kennedy to see if we can get him on tape somewhere, because we're losing him. And he had such an incredible feeling, just incredible feeling. And he had so much faith in the health of people that he just didn't think that anybody or any situation was unreachable. And so this guy was in one of his classes, and he says, you know, every day I walk to the bus to go to work, and I walked by an empty lot, and the empty lot was full of syringes and bottles and trash. And he said, then one day I walked by and I saw a park. And now I'm working on transforming that. And he transformed that vacant lot into a park, and got, you know, stuff for children to play with, and totally transformed it. But that didn't come from him thinking. It came from him seeing something different, because he was in a different feeling state, in a different state of mind, in a different level of consciousness.